Hello and welcome to episode 188 of Masters of the Forge. We are on super duper NPR voice because someone just went down for their nap.
And it's
apologize for the tardiness of this episode. We've got Jason, who's at the end of the semester.
Yes.
And
hi, everyone.
My situation is we're going to get this off at right at the beginning so that Jason can have ample warning to edit. But one of my good friends was fucking murdered by a drunk driver last week.
Yeah.
And I hope that person fucking rots in hell. Anyways, with that out of the way, Jason, how's your hobby progress been?
Not a whole lot of progress, just because I have spent most of my free time either attending concerts or recording concerts or mixing them. So, look at we'll talk about a little bit more in my Beyond the Fringe because, when I was younger, I could record 4 concerts and do a podcast in a week and just be slightly tired. But, I think this semester, I think I did 3 and recorded us, and I was like wiped out.
Yeah.
I am working on a new theme for the show. If you've been listening, the audio file that we have for the show is starting to kind of show its age. It got corrupted somehow.
Oh, the music.
Yeah, the music.
Yeah,
so
a
I'm
lot
creating
of Snorri's recordings ended up like that, like with this pop, as if the thing were on a turntable or something.
Yeah.
A high RPM turntable, just like a tick, 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 tick.
Well, this one's really starting to show its age. The file. I mean, I don't know what's going on, and I haven't been able to fix it across multiple machines. So it's time to go ahead and write a new one, which has been on my to-do list, but now it needs to happen.
It doesn't. I mean, I'm sure that you'd rather do the work that you're getting paid for rather than.
Well,
not that we don't appreciate our Patreons. We definitely do. Patreons bought the people of the Ukraine maybe some bullets or some food 1 month, and this month it purchased a book. But still, if you were to ask a person to make us a intro music for you, they would normally be paid thousands of dollars. So
this would easily be up $2,000. But I can use this for other stuff, so I'm not terribly worried. I also watched the first episode of Picard. I decided to get rid of Netflix. I'm deciding between HBO Max or Paramount Plus. So I haven't made my decision yet, but I did like the episode quite a bit. I wish someone had told me what the plot point was at the beginning, and I would have been there at the beginning. But I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that
I prefer
really
not to
me.
give anything away, because something like that, like a Star Trek Next Generation spinoff, isn't something like I'm not even watching the previews for these because I'm there already.
Yeah.
So I don't want to know. So I apologize.
Oh, no, not a problem. I'm just and I figure it's going to be fine. I mean, you have, Patrick Stewart. He's, kind of incredible and about anything. So anyway, I'll probably be going with Paramount Plus at least for a couple of months to catch up on that backlog. Yeah,
there's a few shows on there that are worth watching.
Yeah,
for sure.
I did do one hobby thing though this week. I finally finished, or week and a half, whatever. I did finish the Lady of Arcana miniature from Creature Caster.
Nice.
It's a great model, but the assembly instructions are what did Tucker call them, or Dave? I don't remember who it was that was talking about. They basically said, "Oh, it's old Forge World instructions," and So there were
like an exploded view, basically, of the model, and then a finished photo.
Yeah, pretty much. So there were bits that I couldn't figure out if they actually belonged on there or if they were swaps, or there was one bit that didn't even appear on the instructions, but it appeared in the official stuff. And I was like, okay, so what do I do? So anyways, I've got, I did get it finally built by looking at the instructions and going back to the official site and really looking at that. So yeah, that was kind of funny. Because of some of the gaps in the model, I ended up having to order liquid green stuff from GW, and I got in last night, filled some gaps last night. This morning, took a look at it and realized that I need to shovel more of that liquid green stuff in there to fill those gaps. I will say one thing. I've bought liquid green stuff in the past, and like one bottle will be incredible and the next one will be dry. And this one was actually a really good bottle. So I guess when I order it in the future, I'll only order from GW. I won't get it from a shop that might have had it for 6 months or a year or 2 years. So, but yeah, I'm hoping to prime this model this week, but I'm still clearing off like mold lines I didn't see, or little bits of flash from the mold, or other miscellaneous things that didn't get knocked off in the wash or, before. So what about you? What you got?
I've been busy. I painted the chocobos, finished painting those. They were, there's quite a bit of black on black with those. Where the infantry, they have lots of clothes, and they have the pants that can be the wine color, and they have the hair that can be the blue. The chocobos, the armor was black, and their feathers are black, and then the armor of the riders black, if I'm going with that theme, because they're in full plate armor. They're knights.
Yeah.
So it was kind of touch and go there, but I'd like strengthen the highlights a little bit on a bunch of the model, which helped quite a bit define some of the lines. And the armor on the chocobos has some designs on it, so I did those in full color. Unfortunately, some of the designs on that armor were people in armor, which also had to be black. So it was a little touch and go there. The basing helped. The basing is very contrasty. So yeah, they came out okay. They'll never be the strongest unit in the army paint wise, but I'm happy with them. They'll look good as kind of either a harrying unit or a bodyguard for the general on Griffin. I ended up finishing those up on Friday morning,
right?
And I ended up naming the sergeant after my buddy, his D&D character Morphael, who was kind of a fop, he literally had a hat with feathers in it, which works for the theme of the army anyways.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. I was so happy to do that. And I was actually very happy with the sergeant, how the face turned out and everything. So there's a few things about that job that I was pretty happy with. I actually went back prior to posting. So I posted my general on Griffin a while ago, and I had just done dry brushes on the wings.
Right.
And I never had been very happy with it. So Armies on Parade were Battlefield Behemoths this year, so I went ahead and picked it up, and I added another 6 to 8 hours on the wings or on the feathers in general with some dry brushes, but then I went and actually edge highlighted all the feathers.
Yeah.
And I am much happier with that. Yeah, thank you. I'm so much happier with it. It looks so much better. I didn't place this month, but the top two definitely deserved it. It was Curtis and his avatar.
Oh, okay.
Got second place, and that thing is, obviously one of my votes. The avatar he did that GW provided. Thank you, Games Workshop, for providing that.
Yeah,
it was truly a beautiful model. The other model was a Lord of Change, which was done by one of our locals, Vintage Verb, on the Discord, and it was also truly a well-deserved
nice.
It was a gorgeous model. But I got all my models back today, so I'm happy to get my models back, and I'm going to put them in the case when we're done recording.
Yeah.
So that means it's time for the next step on that. Now, I know I apologize to our listeners if they're hoping for more 40K hobby progress from me. But right now, this is my this is making me happy, so this is what I'm doing. I do
give it a couple of weeks. You can always use this as some of you can use this Imperial Army stuff.
Yeah, people like hearing hobby progress regardless of what it is. So, I mean, I did pick up some more stealth suits the other day from the GW store because I need more for the Tau. I will be doing the Tau army eventually. I'm just happily plugging away at this Cities of Sigmar, which I'm going to use for Adepticon next year. So I want to make sure the entire army, and it's going to be my final armies on parade at the end of the year, and I want to make that deadline.
Yeah,
if I get some Tau painted in between or some Orcs painted in between, good. I mean, I'm sure
you can get the Sigmar stuff done in plenty of time at high level. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
I mean, went through and painted 15. Was it 15K? No, wait, what year was that? Was it?
Which year was 2018? Brian and I painted 18,000 points, and a few of the other guys, Colin, I think.
Man. Yeah, that if you can do that in a year, one Sigmar army to a really high quality is not going to be.
Well, that was BQ before Quinn.
Yeah,
but yes, you're right.
That's true.
I should aim high, but I do have 9 kilocans that I am kind of dying to work on, and I have, because that would be really good because I have a ton. I have so many grots.
Yeah.
And now I have the Grot Mega Tank. It would be nice to do just a crazy Grot army someday. And I have most of it, like bring one to a tournament or something. And I've got the new Defcoptas to paint as well, which I'd like to paint.
Yeah.
Eventually.
I have a whole bunch of those too that I managed to pick up. I haven't painted
Moving
yet.
on. The next step of the army. Oh, you mean you'll paint them for yourself? Okay,
I'll paint for myself. I'm not giving them to other people.
I was just
myself. No.
I was a little concerned where that was going.
No. I paint my own stuff because it's what I do to stay sane. Is that what this is?
I genuinely forgot you were working on a Speed Freaks. So
yeah. Well, I finally got all those bikes primed because they're all the yellow and red. Did I ever mention that in Hobby Progress? I don't think I did. I finally got them all primed because they were like yellow and red and gray. And I lay down a layer of primer, and you'd still see the red peeking through or the yellow peeking through. So I had to double layer a couple of them, and it was kind of annoying. But whatever.
Some of these are so spindly. It's like at some point, like some of these, I have to hand brush the crevices, or else I'm too thickly coating the ones that are raised.
Yeah.
To get at the stuff that's underneath.
So who needs detail, right? Details for someone else.
Jerks.
Yeah.
The next step for armies on parade is Gods of War, which is just kind of what it sounds like, even though Battlefield Behemoths also sounds similar.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. It's kind of like a centerpiece character. So it could be something like Sanguinius or Saint Celestine or the Sanguinor or Gazgul, something like that, like a big main character type situation. So I'm gonna do. I was gonna see if I could get 20 broadswords painted first as kind of a eat your vegetables before you can eat your dessert, but I'm starting the Nagash war engine, the Nagash war machine first, because I think it's going to take a lot of time and I don't want to rush it for the deadline. I feel like I want to put as much effort into it as possible. So I'm going to use that as my excuse for not painting 20 broadswords first. I'm going to paint Nagash first. So yesterday I started working on it last night while we watched Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Is that what y'all watched in the... man.
That movie was a lot wittier than I remember it.
Yeah.
And way more racist than I remember it. So it was kind of like, I don't know. Yeah.
I haven't watched that in forever.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't take itself very seriously. It's definitely intentionally campy, which I think is rare for back that far in the 60s and 70s. Like you've only really seen that recently with like Sharknado and similar and Zombievers. They're intentionally campy.
Yeah.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes certainly was. It didn't take itself seriously. It has a musical number in it, for God's sake.
That's right.
It might have two.
I don't think I've seen that as an adult. How about that?
Yeah,
I
you
saw
should
it as a kid.
try it. I mean, it is a little but so anyways, these I started by taking 2 of the Vampire Knights or Vampire Blood Knight horses. I wanted to have them dragging the wagon instead of the horses. Oh, sorry. I am using the Celestial Huracanum model as a base for the wagon. Which itself is a kind of a mechanical clockwork war machine of the cities of Sigmar. Anyways, I took 2 of the Blood Knight horses. Unfortunately, the Blood Knights are molded to the horses' backs. So I had to cut away both legs on both horses. Like the rider's legs. I had to snip those off. So I have to fill that void with something. So I clipped some sprue and I glued the sprue on the inside of the horse so I didn't have to stuff the horse with green stuff.
Right.
You know, I don't want to waste all that green stuff on it. Once that dried, I started mushing green stuff around. I just made a bunch of green stuff, put it on there, and just started pushing it around. I think it was who's the lead designer of Warhammer? Well, Just Goodwin. You know, he calls them putty pushers. Sculptors are called putty pushers, and that's really what it is. You're just pushing the putty around until it makes sense.
That's very true.
So I tried following the natural lines that are already on the horses. There's already a bunch of kind of saddle blankets that are hanging down in tatters. So I followed the same lines that were on those.
Yeah.
And smoothed them out, made creases. And then once it had set a little bit, I went in with my hobby knife with some spit, obviously, because that's what you use. And I made holes I made some holes in that cloth. Try to make it similar to the holes in the cloth that was already on the saddle blankets. So I'm thinking those guys are. I'm actually fairly happy with how that looks. And if you're looking at the horse's saddle blankets instead of Nagash, I don't know what to tell you. So I built the wagon itself. The wagon itself is built.
Yeah.
Of course, for some reason, Sigmar has to put his personal heraldry all over everything. So like there's or not Sigmar, Emperor Karl Franz. So it's like literally emblazoned on every stairway, both sides of it have the words Emperor Karl Franz written on it. Super annoying. And even there's a couple of shields on either side that have KF on them. So I had to go through and waste 15 minutes of my life taking off his personal identification off of the freaking wagon. So the wagon, so I'm going to be stuffing this with offerings, right? Like pumpkins and cabbages, and I'm going to roll. I already have those as like the pumpkins are seed pods that you can get that look exactly like pumpkins. I have some of those on some of my bases. I've talked about those in the past. I'll have a couple of those in here. I have some cabbages that I got from the HO scale cabbages that I've also put on some of my bases. I will also get some green stuff and roll up some apples and whatnot. Maybe some corn. I don't know about the corn. It might be a little much. But anyways, I'm going to have some offerings on here. But the Huracanum piece itself is awesome because it just slides in and spins. So what I'll do is I'll trim off some of these, and I'm going to cut Nagash's kind of bottom off, the plastic Nagash, not the metal Nagash, and stick this up his butt so that there's mechanical parts going up into the Nagash model. And also I'm thinking about cutting him at the left arm so that there can be like a mechanical piece with a hinge going from the body to the arm, and so it can kind of move a little bit. And the whole thing is going to be painted brass with brass corrosion and some of the ravens and crows, I think. Whatever it is, some of the birds. And Tucker's going to give me one or two. What are they? Vultures that come with the giants, the Gargants. Each little Gargant comes with a vulture, and he doesn't need all of those vultures. He said he was going to give me some. So we'll get some bird droppings on Nagash. And the cool thing about the Celestial Huracanum, it comes with all kinds of books and sculptures and freestanding candles that you put wherever you want. Which is really nice. Like, it's nice to have those like little candle bits that you can put wherever. And
it's an interesting model.
It really is. Some of the Night Haunt stuff Tucker gave me, some like extra Night Haunt pieces. Like some of those Night Haunt are also holding candelabra and whatnot. So I can kind of start putting a bunch of candles all over this for some OSL interest. And I might even take Nagash's staff and replace the innards of that staff with like some candles, some real candles, instead of like, I'm not going to use any of the magical energy that's surrounding Nagash. I'm going to just have him standing free as a statue. So I think this should be an interesting piece, but it's going to be a lot of effort.
Right. Yeah, I'm finally looking at the Celestial Huracanum, and it's just a really cool model.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before.
Yeah, it's and it's going to have a bunch of extra bits too.
Yeah.
There's a
I love the top on like the original on the like the original topper is pretty amazing. But you're switching that out with Nagash.
Yeah, that topper is going to be swapped out, which means I get to use that top piece for something else, which is nice.
It's a cool piece. I mean,
it could definitely be a really neat terrain feature, or if I decide to do something else with it. And the Luminarch is cool too. It's kind of a lens that projects a energy or whatever. I could use that for some kind of weird Imperial Knight conversion, or again another piece of terrain, or maybe even some orc thing. Who knows? But I'm excited about this project. I think it'll
his
be
name
fun.
is all over that thing. Sorry.
Yeah,
you mentioned
you see right underneath those stupid windows, it just says Emperor Karl Franz. I had to shave that whole thing off.
And it's under both windows.
Yeah,
on both sides.
But what's nice about the way that the Huracanum piece sets in that turret is I don't have to glue Nagash on. If I glue him onto that turret piece, it just removes and he can be stored separately.
Okay. Yeah, so
that's nice.
Could be a large piece.
I'm just glad $300 had to die to make this 100 or two. Well, it's like 230 point model, but still, it's pretty great. I'm very excited about that.
Well, that's sometimes what conversions are, is, making sure that nothing looks like what you have. Absolutely, positively nothing.
Yeah, nothing. I'll be excited to show it off. I actually do have a work in progress thread on Twitter, because why not? That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So Jason, we don't have any games played that aren't being talked about, or we have. I have 2 games played. You have 1. One of those we already did we
did the battle report on the last episode. Yeah.
And the other one I did a game with Kendrick for our Altar of War for the Freedoms Network. So
yeah.
There's no games played right now. I have some coming up, I think, so that'll be fun. Speaking of that Altar of War episode, that's going to be coinciding with this one. I guess. Mm-hmm. Well, now it is. Well, here's the thing. I sent them that a couple weeks ago too, so I'm like, "What's going on, guys?" So I guess they'll always be coinciding, which is nice. Yeah. Because that'll be that's Tyranids versus orcs, and that'll be a lot of fun.
That will be a lot of fun.
And this episode is about Tyranids. So Jason, let's go beyond the
All right, so it might be on the fringe. So like I'm always experimenting with compression and limiters and EQ and whatnot. And so I've done the last episode I started doing some new compression techniques. Because I'm just, like I said, I'm always experimenting with them, because what works for one situation will not work for others. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And I'd like to go through and get some of this stuff done by just automating, rather than me sitting there and like editing each individual file. So last episode, I ran through a single band compressor to kind of level out our speech patterns, which that's the compressor I've always been using. I've used it for quite a bit. But now I'm going through and dropping in a multi-band compressor second in the chain, just to push volume for individual voices, since we do occupy different frequency ranges typically. And so I can push yours more with one compressor, and I can push mine with a different one. So that our levels are, fairly similar. This is for all the people who sometimes ask about, how do I process stuff? So each compressor, we have 2 compressors on each of our individual tracks, mm-hmm. instead of a global track. It does cause the machine to render a little bit slower, but that's not a big deal. If it saves me time with having to go through and remove some of our individual speech pattern ticks and whatnot. So yeah, that's my Beyond the Fringe, which is basically what am I doing in work and how am I using it here, or what am I doing here and using it for work. Yay. Okay.
Excellent. Yeah. For my Beyond the Fringe, I actually went to go see Weird Al.
Yay.
Yeah, it was really nice. Weird Al, my first album was the first album I ever owned, obviously, which was actually a cassette. And it was Weird Al in 3D, which I think is his second album, and Lost Boys soundtrack, which the first CD I ever owned. Mm-hmm. I got for a CD player for Christmas. I think my 13th or 14th birthday. I can't really remember. But it was Weird Al Alapalooza, which had that's the one that had the cover that looked like Jurassic Park. It's Al, like it's Al's face instead of a dinosaur's face. But I also that year for Christmas, I also got the CD for the Jurassic Park movie soundtrack. So I had both of those CDs. Anyways, Weird Al is a special place in my heart, and that was really nice to see. It was his, they called it the unfortunate return of the ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised vanity tour, which was essentially what it is he decided to do he usually does a huge production, like he does a huge show.
Yeah.
Like a big show. So essentially what that is he usually does a big production, right? With costume changes, like every song is a costume change, or every other song is a costume change. And every song is a big, huge stage production. Mm. And for somebody who's like 60 to 63 years old, that starts to get a little extra. So he started doing a thing where it's just him and the band. It's still electric. It's not acoustic, but him and the band sit down and they play a bunch of their non-parody songs. Okay. So Al has a bunch of songs that are originals, usually in the
Is
style
that like the air release valve one that you sent me?
Yeah, that's one of the. I think that's from last year's.
That was funny. That was real
a song
funny.
Written for air release valve on an accordion. I thought you'd appreciate that one.
Oh, that was beautiful. So I wish you could have mic'd it better, but oh well.
Dare to Be Stupid is like an original song, but it's in the style of Devo.
Oh yeah.
But some of them are just straight up originals. So he does those. So if you're a huge Weird Al fan, it's for you. If you're a casual Weird Al fan, you might not be so interested because it's all it's literally none of the parodies. So that made me feel real nice because a bunch of the songs are songs that I've loved forever. So I was really happy in the middle of all this horrible stuff that's been going on. It was nice to have a night with Wendy where we just got to go out and be happy for an evening. So that was really awesome. Another note about mental health, there's a great show for kids called Bluey that we've been watching, and it is so wholesome that it may kill you. But
is it like Mr. Rogers wholesome?
It's as much a show for kids as it is a show for parents to teach them how to not be trash at being parents. Okay. It's really good. It's really good.
I approve of that.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. So as far as I really don't have any additional info on any of the releases that have come out. We've got some plans coming up to talk about some of those releases. Do you have anything that you wanted to really discuss before we moved into our topic? Like any of the
the new releases? I'm glad we can finally talk about that Horus Heresy starter box that we've...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Horus Heresy starter box and also the Ashwaite's Nomads, which I didn't actually talk about.
Yeah.
That was the secret project I was working on. I took the Ashwaite's Nomads, lopped off their necks, added heads from the new Astra Militarum upgrade pack that they sent us a few months ago.
Yeah.
Added a bunch of orc iconography and made more Diggas out of them. And they are perfect for Diggas. They're so good.
Yeah, I haven't built mine yet. Just so everyone knows, when we went to Adepticon, they invited us to a podcaster content creator meeting, and they gave us the Ash Waste Gang, which was like, I have to hide this for a few days, and then they gave us more information on the Horus Heresy, starter box. Which I didn't have to sit there and eat my words because it's I think I remember saying they're never going to do a Spartan in resin.
Or in plastic.
Or not, sorry. Yeah, in plastic. Sorry. Yeah. Let me get that correct. No, I'm not going back and editing that.
We've done enough already.
I just remember
this episode is so cursed.
Yeah, it's at this point I'm expecting something to catch on fire. Hopefully not at your house or my house, but Just wait. There'll be a good fire. Plastic Spartan. Yeah, was it for years? I was like, I'm not going to believe in a plastic Spartan until it's literally in my hand or GW, says it's happening. And then I just had to sit there and after that think, I've got 6 weeks that I have to sit here and stew about the plastic Spartan thing. Okay, fine. I am really excited about the plastic Dreadnought, the plastic Contempter, like a posable one, because the old plastic Contempter was not posable. I mean, it was if you were fearless with a hobby saw, you could do some good stuff with it. But I mean, you had to really be kind of fearless about it. Because I did have one. I had three of those plastic ones. In the third one, I was kind of at I don't care anymore, and I just took a hobby saw and started hacking at it, and create a nice dynamic. But so yeah. Anyways, that's kind of the thing I'm really, really excited about. Just because, I mean, 40 Beakies and the Spartan and the Dread and some Cataphracti Terminators and 2 characters. I mean, isn't that an army?
That's literally an army. Well, maybe not a full army in that system, but still, it's still
on the Horus Heresy. That's like 2 squads. That's 2 squads of Beakies because they go up to 20. Yeah.
So that's fine. It's great. It's real great. I'm looking forward to that. All right. So why don't we take a quick break and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the new Tyranid Codex. Now, we don't have it in our hands right now. We passed that off to Kendrick, but we did take notes. We did take some notes before we did that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Damn, I knew it was around here somewhere. Damn, where is it?
Can I help you?
Ah! Scared me.
What do you seek?
I need the perfect scenario for a narrative game I'm running this week, and I can't find one.
Sir, this is the Black Library. We don't have narrative scenarios.
Well, then where should I go?
Might I recommend the Tabletop Campaign Repo?
The Tabletop Campaign Repo? What's that?
The Tabletop Campaign Repo is an ad-free site for hosting resources related to playing tabletop miniatures wargaming.
Oh, like scenarios?
Absolutely. Also, event packs, custom objectives, tracking sheets, custom terrain rules, maps, icon packs, award templates, and more.
Oh, and this is for Warhammer 40k?
Among other things. There's also Age of Sigmar, Kill Team, Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and others. They're always open for content submissions for any system, even non-Games Workshop materials.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like a great way to save all of this great content the community makes. A lot of that stuff often ends up disappearing into a dead message board or Facebook group.
Exactly. It's a real community effort.
Great. So how do I get there?
Just go to that webway gate marked tcrepo.com.
tcrepo.com. Got it. Can I ask you one more question before I go?
Fire away.
This place is really easy to find. How come Armand can never find it?
Oh, because it's more funny that way.
Oh, yeah, clearly.
Once again, the Tabletop Campaign repository can be found at tcrepo.com, and they're always looking for submissions.
Greetings, mofos.
Are you out of George Dickel number 8, staring at a broken chess machine?
Don't want to spend the rest of the year tied to that couch?
Well, why don't you head on over to the 1 Hour a Night Facebook page and see what exciting stuff is going on there. It's a place to post all your daily progress in the hobby grind, as well as receive and give positive feedback. Also, there are usually a few interesting challenges going on.
That's right. All you have to do is search for 1 Hour a Night on Facebook. That's numeral 1 Hour a Night, all one word. Blood serum tests will be administered prior to approval.
Se til helvete og kom dere vekk. Det ikke en bikkje, det en slags ting. Den imiterer en bikkje, men det ikke det. Kom dere vekk, idioter!
What he said. Welcome back. So, good news is Wendy's aunt has a heart and kidney coming for her. Bad news is we'll probably get a Quinn appearance later in this episode, but we'll see. You may luck out, you may not. We'll see.
Well, we had a very We had a Yoshi appearance during almost all of the intro.
Did. Yeah, that was nice. I saw him. It's nice. Yeah. So I want to talk about. So we don't really do full Codex reviews, but for some of this stuff, you have to understand how the rules work in order to understand how the Crusade stuff works.
Right.
Right. So I want to talk about how some of the lore of each of these hive fleets is reflected in the rules. So let's start by going through these established hive fleets and talk about their adaptations. So I'll start off with Gorgon. Gorgon is known for its hyper adaptability. Each organism secretes spores which taste an enemy's biology and provide information about what the next generation of bioforms should be equipped to deal with. Their paint scheme is green and bone with white chitin. So Highfleet Gorgon they're hyper. So they have an adaptation, and then their adaptive trait can be swapped out for something else. So the adaptation can't be swapped out. That's what you just have for your hive fleet. Now, there's also a whole list of other biomorphologies that you can use as kind of a secondary adaptation. So let's just, for example, Gorgon. Each time an attack is made with a model with this adaptation against a unit, excluding vehicle or Titanic, an unmodified wound roll of a 4+ is always successful because of their poison. That is a set adaptation.
That's actually really nice.
Yeah, it's really good. Their adaptive trait is each time a unit with this adaptation is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll one wound roll when resolving that unit's attacks. So they're really, really good at just when they land a blow, it's affecting you. There's very little that you're going to be able to do to resist those wounds. Now, if you want to, that adaptive trait, that secondary trait, you're allowed to swap that out for something else prior to the game beginning. So once you know who your opponent is, like what their army looks like and how they're deployed, I think you can change that adaptation to something else. Yeah. So it really shows how the Tyranids are always how they're always prepared for their enemies, how they quickly adapt to the ever-changing tableau of opponents. So each hive fleet has a specific list, has 2 lists that they can choose from. There are 3 lists, but each hive fleet can only select from 2 of them. So Gorgon can select from the feed biomorphologies or the lurk biomorphologies. And I think we'll have some examples of kind of how that works later, but it's really just they're allowed to change their sub-faction abilities on the fly. That's really what that's about. So, Jason, do you want to do the next one?
Jormungandr? Is that it?
Jormungandr.
Jormungandr? Okay. So this hive fleet prefers shock assaults and burrowing from below. And their paint scheme is a black skin with the yellow chitin, which is kind of a cool-looking scheme. But their hive fleet adaptation is tunnel networks. So I'll read you the splash text also. The warrior organisms of Hive Fleet, attack from subterranean tunnels, making these predatory monsters extremely difficult to target until it is far too late. So each time a ranged attack targets a monster unit with this adaptation, if the attack is more than 18 feet away, then the target is treated as having both the benefits of dense cover against the attack.
-1 to hit.
So yeah, and each time a ranged attack targets a unit excluding monsters with this adaptation, If the attacker is more than 12 inches away, then the target is treated as having the benefits of dense cover against that attack. Right. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, that -1 to hit is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Especially since monsters actually get it. It's just at 18 inches instead of 12.
Yeah.
What's the
adaptive trait? Each time a unit with this adaptation is targeted by a weapon with the blast rule, have the number of models in that unit rounding up when determining how many attacks are made with that weapon. So that could be big.
So I love how the adaptive trait plays both of these so far. The adaptive trait isn't something separate, like a separate ability. Right. It's an ability that builds on the first ability.
Right.
Because this is showing how they're so dug in that they're not getting affected by the blast so much.
Yeah. I do like that each one of these has had, we're not going to go into all of it, but each one's had strategies, and the name of the stratagem is Buried in Weight. The previous one was, what was the previous one? Hypertoxicity.
Yes.
Which, just the name of that, it's just like, oh, so it comes through and says racist things. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. But all of these really they're working really hard to make sure that they're thematic.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I love it.
I mean, just from reading some of this stuff, like, I know that we always kind of look at who has the most, or, how the codexes, like the Crusade rules and whatnot, are actually really flavorful. And this one seems to be extremely flavorful, like stuff that they're doing that I most definitely did not expect, So, yeah. You're next.
I'm next. So next is Highfleet Chronos that they talk about. Highfleet Chronos boasts the most powerful shadow in the warp. The mere presence of a Chronos tendril has been known to banish not only demons, but the presence of the warp itself. Hydra, or Chronos does seek out psychic prey, but it's not picky. It'll eat anything. The paint scheme is black skin, red chitin, and blue-green symbiont creatures. Now, this one's interesting because they did talk about it, but they don't have Chronos listed as one of the main fleets. Hold on. Since it's not one of the ones that has a main hive fleet, you can make your own hive fleet by picking 2 of these biomorphologies that you can normally swap out, right? So for a super psychic one, gosh, I think maybe synaptic goading, which allows some of your endless multitude units to make a pre-game move, which would be really cool. But also wreathed in the shadow, I think, would be necessary. They have kind of like a stronger shadow in the warp. So each time a unit with this adaptation requires a charge, enemy units that were targeted by that charge can't fire Overwatch or set to defend. So.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think with the changes in Overwatch in 9th edition that,
Yeah, it's not so bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
You want to do Hydra?
Yeah. So Hydra, let me make sure I've got all that up. All right, so this hive fleet has swept through the galaxy behind other hive fleets and picked at their leavings. Both original life forms and Tyranids left behind. Yes, the Vultures. All right. Their fleet is comprised of one closely guarded tendril which sniffs out opportunities and reacts swiftly by sending out a splinter to devour it. The strategy is swift reactive strikes, filters down to the ground level combat. And their paint scheme is blue and purple. Well, it's blue and purple skin with black chitin, which I'm trying to remember. I think I've seen that. And I'm sure I've seen that somewhere. I'll need to go and look. I kind of discovered with this episode how very little I know about the Nids, to be honest.
Yeah. These episodes are great because it kind of gives us a better lens into how it works.
Yeah, I'm sure my wallet loves it. So the Highfleet adaptation is Swarming Instincts. Each time a model with this adaptation makes a melee attack that targets a unit containing fewer models than its own, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. So for purposes of this adaptation, vehicle and monster models each count as 5 models.
So they actually might get that benefit even though they're only 1 model. That is so cool.
Yeah, that is pretty nice. Adaptive, let's see. Add 1 to the move characteristics of models with adaptation. And each time a model with this adaptation makes consolidation move, it can move up to an additional 3 inches to a max of 9 inches. Which that's
they're just burying you under their own bodies and smothering you until you die.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
There's real cool extra text on the side of the page. How do you fight an enemy that grows stronger the harder you hit it? I won't read the rest. The first sentence is just kind of great, you know.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the next one we have is Tiamat. Tiamat, they use defensive strategies and mutations. They bide their time, expanding slowly rather than in massive invasions. And this is one of the interesting ones we talked about when we talked about the campaign. One of the ones that they were dealing with in the what do you call it? At any rate, this kind of mentality is normally the Imperium doesn't think of Tyranids as doing this and biding their time and striking it when the time is right. It imparts some kind of sentience onto the hive mind, and some people in the Imperium are loath to do that for any Xenos, much less the Tyranids.
Yeah.
So do we have adaptations for Tiamat? We do not. So let's see. A sneaky biomorphology. Ambush predators. Units with this adaptation are eligible to perform heroic interventions as if they were a character unit. So don't get within the 3 inches of any of these guys, or else they're going to be able to do a heroic intervention. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
All right.
There's also Naturalized Camouflage, which I think I would use for the other one. That's under Lurk.
Okay, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, each time a ranged attack is allocated to a model with this adaptation, while it is receiving the benefits of cover from a terrain feature, add an additional 1 to any armor saving throw made for that attack. So this would be great to have them just hide in ruins or in woods or whatever, and then if you even try to charge them, they're all just going to jump out at you. It's pretty cool. Yeah. I like it. That's fun.
Let's see. And I have, what is it? Aeroboros, an ancient hive fleet boasting more primitive yet resilient biology who favor aerial combat and strategies which sever their prey's command structure before devouring the rest. Paint scheme is bright blue skin and black chitin. So they do not have a standard. So let's look at the biomorphologies. Primitive yet resilient. So more than likely, we have 3 we can look at.
Exoskeletal stabilization.
Models with this adaptation do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls incurred for firing assault weapons in the same turn that their unit has advanced. Ooh. Models with this adaptation do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls incurred for firing heavy weapons in the same turn that their unit has moved. And monster models with this adaptation do not suffer the penalty incurred in their hit rolls for firing heavy weapons at enemy units that were within engagement range of them. That's a nice one. I was thinking that maybe adding exoskeletal reinforcement.
Yeah.
That's from the Lurk biomorphology. Each time an attack with an armor penetration characteristic of -1 is allocated to a model with this adaptation, that attack has an AP value of 0 instead.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah, much more. I guess a better exoskeleton for this Highfleet might be nice since they're, primitive yet resilient.
Yeah, I think it would be cool if, there was, because they do use flying a lot too, but there's no special one for flying creatures.
No, there isn't.
It's not like it. Now, I want to bring up though I love it's Relentless Hunger. Each time a unit with this adaptation fails a charge, it can make a normal move of up to 3 inches.
Oh, okay.
So if you fail the charge, you can either get closer or you can fall back a little bit.
That is
in case you've put yourself into a dangerous situation, you can get back out of it. I think that's so neat. Anyways, I just wanted to bring that one up because I thought
Augmented Frosty is pretty nice. Add 1 to charge rolls made for this unit with this adaptation.
That's just really good overall, right?
Yeah.
So I on my list here, I didn't add Behemoth or Kraken because they're kind of like the poster child of Tyranids. So I'll do Behemoth real quick. Usually Behemoth is the one that's got the big monsters. Okay. They don't unlike Aeroboros, they don't use stealth or they don't lie in wait. They jump out and get you. Each time a unit with this adaptation fights, it's called hyper aggression, a headlong onslaught that crushes all in their path. If it made a charge move, was charged, or performed heroic intervention this turn, the unit that until that fight is resolved, add 1 to the strength of models in that unit. So that's good for the Gribblies and it's good for the big monsters because big monsters tend to have these sweep attacks now. Like all the big monsters, instead of just some of the monsters having a big attack profile and then a sweep attack profile, almost all of them have it. So it might be more interesting to use a sweep attack if you have +1 strength. Their adaptive physiology is you can reroll charge rolls made for your units in your army with this adaptation. So that's really nice. I mean, they're all about getting up there and charging. But see, that second one, you can swap that out for a lurk one if you're concerned, if you're like going up against say Tau. Say your Highfleet has been fighting Tau for a long time, and you can't rely on jumping out and charging turn 1 against them. You just get mowed down. So instead, you choose instead of adding 1 to your charges, you choose to take Naturalized Camouflage instead, which your Highfleet has been developing because they've been fighting the Tau. So you're getting +1 to your cover saves. I just think it's so cool that this adaptation aspect is exactly something that you'd want from the Tyranids.
Yeah. Like these codexes are. I'm much more happier, I guess, with some of the stuff we're seeing in the newest editions, the new versions of codexes. They're making some of those armies that used to be. Well, let's be honest. In 6th and 7th edition, Tyranids were not. We're not. Is that? I think we can stop that sentence right there. And so this actually, I mean,
they were trapped in Arcturus.
This makes them better, more whatever. Last one we'll pull off is Kraken. So let me read the text for them. To do battle with the swarms of Highfleet, Kraken is to pit oneself against a sly, predatory gestalt whose every instinct and action is calculated towards outmaneuvering and encircling prey. The Kraken's broods spring from unexpected quarters. They search for the slightest gap in their enemy's defenses and exploit even the smallest weakness with rapacious savagery.
And I think this is the Highfleet that's attacking from underneath the galactic plane. Like they are. They're the slinking dark shadow in the depths of the ocean that are coming up to engulf your ship.
What's amusing about this is that's kind of the adaptation, the adaptive really kind of feed with that. Haha, I made a tendril pun, or I made a Tyranid pun. All right, questing tendrils is their adaptation. Kraken harries and imbalances its foes with lightning-fast flanking attacks. Aha! Before encircling them for final bloody slaughter. So each time a unit with this adaptation fights, if it made a charge move this turn, then until that fight is resolved, each time a model in this unit makes an attack, improve the armor penetration characteristic by 1.
So they jump out and they hit you where you hurt. Like they find the chinks in your armor. They study you and then they jump out and stab you.
And the adaptive, each time a unit with this adaptation advances, if it is not affected by the opportunistic advance stratagem, which is somewhere, or the bounding advance stratagem, do not make an advance roll. Instead, until the end of the phase, add D3 plus 3 the move characteristics of the model in that unit. So they can move. That's just their move. That's not their charge.
Yeah,
so
they
cool.
They lie in wait and then jump out.
Yeah. That's kind of neat. They do move. I like that.
All right. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we talked about those. So there's also some really cool stuff in here. Just like the Tau, there was a sweet 4-page spread with the different weapons, what they look like, what they're called, how they work.
Nice.
There's a pretty cool in-character Ordo Xenos reflection on the Parasite of Mortrex because there's a new model. And that has a really amusing conclusion that I won't spoil. Also helps you determine what different adaptations look like so you can pick the right ones for your models. Now, I know there's some folks who'd rather not pick adaptations for their models so they can run whatever they want. It sounds like coward talk to me, but okay.
That's funny. Yeah.
All right. So let's kind of talk a little bit about how armies are, how you build a Tyranid army. Because again, I feel like you need to know this in order to understand the Crusade rules.
So we're not going to go over all the stratagems and whatnot, but we'll just kind of discuss how the fleet rules work. So you can only have one Hive Tyrant per detachment.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of interesting.
Chapter Masters.
Yeah. Chapter Master, Speed Boss. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's I like that. Units with the living artillery keywords, such as Spore Mines, Mucoloid Spores, don't get army or detachment abilities.
Yeah, because they're just things.
They're just, they're living artillery. They're snot. Yeah. Or at least that's kind of what I think. Well, Mucoloid doesn't mean that, but whatever. Synapse. Units within 6 inches are fearless.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's kind of nice.
It is nice.
Synapse link range is now 12 inches, or was it always 12 inches, or?
It's fluctuated.
Okay. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about the NIDs. This is going to be teaching Jason the Tyranids. All right. And it connects all the army's Synapse creatures in a network, which allows commands to travel across the battlefield from one commander to the other.
Yeah. So there are these things called synaptic imperative abilities. Each Synapse unit in your army can pick a synapse. They already have a set synaptic imperative ability. So the Maliceptor has one, the Neurothrope has one, even the Tyranid warriors have one.
That's pretty cool.
They all have their own specific one. So every turn or every battle round, you pick an ability from one of your surviving Synapse creatures, and then all the Synapse creatures gain that ability or project that ability. For example, I picked the Maliceptor. Malice Scepter is really cool. This is one that Kendrick used against me, and it's really cool. So while this imperative ability is active for your army, and a friendly hive tendril unit is within 6 inches of this Synapse model. So Synapse is 12 inches, but some abilities are specific, like certain inches or whatever. But so as long as a unit is within 6 inches, if that unit is performing an action, it can make ranged attacks without that action failing. That unit can start to perform an action even if it advanced or fell back this turn. If that unit has the Psyker keyword, performing a psychic action does not prevent it from manifesting psychic powers. So the Malice Scepter gives units some crazy mental acuity that lets them perform very complex tasks while also doing other stuff. So it gives you such incredible flexibility on the battlefield. It is crazy.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in that one. Like, I think all of them are really interesting, but that one's really quite nice. I chose the Neurothrope. Psychic Augmentation. There's a few things. I think is there 2 or 3 that are kind of based on Psychic? No, just 2.
Yeah, there's a couple. And like, again, I just want to clarify, like, it's not just the Malice Scepter that would get that.
Yeah.
Every unit, every Synapse unit gets that.
Yeah. Well, here's why I like this one. So while this synaptic imperative ability is active for your army and a friendly hive tendril unit, so then 6 inches of the model, blah, blah, blah. Add 1 to psychic tests taken for that unit. Add 1 to deny the witch tests taken for that unit.
Oh.
So this would actually be a good one if you were playing against me, which I don't know if I like that. Each time a model in that unit would lose a wound as a result of mortal wound, roll 1d6 on a 5-up. That wound is not lost. This is the anti-Thousand Suns, anti-Grey Knights augmentation. Imperative.
And I know we didn't say this one, but I was actually curious to see what the Warriors one is, because they're troops. You can put them, a bunch of these, in your army.
Right.
Tyranid Warriors are goaded to slaughter. While this synaptic imperative ability is active for your army and a friendly hive tendril unit is within 6 inches of this synapse model, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit.
Oh.
Wow. Exploding hits. Yeah. Exploding hits just for having Tyranid Warriors in your army.
The thing is, Warriors are, as we'll talk later in the episode about the Crusade, you know, Tyranid Warriors, I think, are they, I know that there's in 2 of the, they're actually kind of powerful in a couple of the phases. So yeah,
they're neat.
I've got some of those guys built and painted.
Some of the other army abilities are Shadow in the Warp, which you should expect to see. Units within 18 inches take a -1 to psychic tests and perils, deal +1 mortal wound. It seems like any Synapse creature, including Tyranid Warriors, also have the Shadow in the Warp ability. From what I can tell from looking at the units.
One I really like, though, I mean, we're going over more of these than we were going to, but whatever. It's our show. We can do what we want. Is Zoanthrope, the warp shielding? Monster models in this unit have a 4-up invul save.
Yeah.
That's big.
Models. When you have Zoanthropes in your army, you basically get 4-up invuln across your army when you have that active. Yeah.
And then models, excluding monster models, have a 5-up invul save. But you're going to have a lot of monster models because it's NIDs. I mean,
they basically put a big shield over your entire army. It's crazy.
I mean, it's Monster May in the hobby progress challenge for Lost the Nails. So I mean, if you're a NID player, this is your month. This is your month.
I agree. It's time to do it.
Yeah.
So swarming masses is another one. So some units have a 2.5-inch combat range instead of the usual engagement range restrictions. So the little gribblies and stuff, they actually can fight in like 3 or 4 ranks. It's crazy. Because they're just swarming. I sure wish Orcs had that.
Yeah.
So every faction has an adaptation, which are its special rules, which we just talked about earlier. And it can swap these around using the hyper adaptations rule after they've seen what the enemy army looks like, which we did just talk about. So let's each pick. We're going to pick a Highfleet to talk about. Now, I stupidly picked one that doesn't have a thing because I just thought Chronos was cool.
Yeah.
So
wait do you see why I chose the one that I chose?
I'll go ahead and yeah, that's really funny. So I'm gonna switch mine to Hydra. Okay.
Oh, good.
So we already talked about, because this is the one that uses all the swarming tactics, right? We already talked about the adaptation. If they outnumber the enemy, they get +1 to hit.
Yeah.
And they have +1 inch move. Whenever they make a consolidation move, they get an additional 3 inches, which is crazy. That's madness. And they can swap out that adaptive for a feed or hunt. They don't lurk as much because they're just swarming over the landscape. They're very direct. Their warlord trait is endless regeneration. They can regenerate itself at the start of the command phase and regain D3 lost wounds. So they can heal D3 once per turn. I think I saw this in action. I think this is what Kendrick had. This is pretty good. Their psychic power is Psychic Shriek.
Yeah.
It's basically the Mind Flayer power from Dungeons and Dragons.
Man, I miss Psychic Shriek.
So it's a Witchfire casting 6. Select an enemy unit within synaptic link range, or one enemy unit within 18 inches of this Psyker. So roll a d6 for each friendly Hydra infantry and Hydra beast model within 3 inches of that unit, and 3d6s for each friendly Hydra monster model within 3 inches of that unit, and for each 5+, that enemy suffers 1 mortal wound. That's super confusing, but all it really means is that the swarm units don't count is all.
Yeah.
So for each unit within range, each one kind of resonates. They're psychically shrieking, right?
Nice.
At the unit. So for each one, there's a chance that it'll burn their brains out. Yeah, for each model. It's really cool. It's like
that is cool.
It's like using your infantry to deal damage in the psychic phase, even if they're not infantry. It's pretty cool. This actually is a maximum of 6 mortal wounds, though.
Yeah. Still, 6 wounds is 6 wounds.
Yeah, it's great. You just keep a bunch of little guys near you, and they're just all screaming.
Yeah.
So you roll a 5 up for each one. Their bio artifact relic are barbworm infestation.
Well, that sounds pleasant.
I guess that I didn't know that an infestation could be a relic, but hey, this is Tyranids. So this creature's body seethes with self-replicating barbworms that clot in blade-headed masses around its weapon projectiles and lend them extra punch. So every time the bearer of the relic makes a ranged attack, you can reroll the wound roll. That's not terribly inventive rules, but it's a delightful description.
Yeah, definitely.
Hydra's stratagem is critical mass. That makes sense for the description we just had of Hydra.
Yeah.
Once this Highfleet's warrior organisms outnumber their prey, they soon overwhelm them in hideous, heaving masses. So you do this at the start of the fight phase, and when a Hydra unit from your army is selected to fight until the end of the phase, each time a melee attack is made by a model in that unit targets an enemy unit with fewer models than its own, you can reroll the wound roll. So you already have a +1 to hit.
Right.
Now you have a +1 to hit, and you're rerolling wounds if you're overwhelming them numbers wise.
Yeah, that'll do
I
it.
mean that just all of those abilities just speak to the theme of the Highfleet, and I'm pretty excited about it. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Because even their psychic power benefits them more if they have more models, because it's roll the dice based on how many of your models are nearby, it's not just a set number. It's not based on how many models. Usually those AoE powers, you're like, oh, roll a dice for every model in the enemy unit on a 6+ or a 5+ to take a mortal wound. Like, no, you roll a dice for every model in your unit that's nearby, and then you take mortal wounds based on that. That's just, everything here makes sense for Hydra.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really cool. So I chose Jormungandr. I chose it because as I was flipping through, I misread the name of the stratagem. And we'll talk about that more in a bit. The adaptation we've already talked about. They are the tunneling Tyranids. And, their adaptation is that, it's hard to blast them. So one example of the swapped out hyper adaptation, as I was thinking, because of tunnel networks, I'd definitely pull something from the Lurk biomorphology. And I'm kind of between Exoskeletal Reinforcement, which reduces AP attack by 1, or actually it's only AP attacks of -1 or become 0, or Naturalized Camouflage, which gives them benefit of cover, etc. I think Exoskeletal Reinforcement might be a little more what I would go with, but it depends on who I'm up against.
Yeah, that's the best part. It's all about who you're up against.
Yeah, so that's that. I think those are the ones I would probably go with that one, the Exoskeletal. All right, let's see. Psychic power. Where are we? Oh no, do we do Warlord?
Warlord trait, yeah.
There we go. All right, Insidious Threat. The Warlord has lurked long on this world, developing an intimate knowledge of its terrain, so there's nowhere for the prey to hide. So in your command phase, select one unit within synaptic range of the Warlord. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, the target does not receive the benefits of cover against that attack. Nice.
Well, that's very helpful.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Our psychic power is Lurking Maws. And Lurking Maws is a malediction. The splash text. The hive mind extends psychic summons and calls upon Jormungandr's embedded and waiting broods. Mindlessly converging via synaptic imperative, their sudden and frenzied attacks spell the foe's ends. So Lurking Maws has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select one enemy unit within synaptic link range of the Psyker, or one enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Ooh, that could be interesting.
Yeah, that's the best part about these, man. Like as a lot of these psychic powers are, you get to use them against people that are feet away, literally. It's crazy.
Well, that's kind of how 1,000 Suns work as well, is that you can, I don't do it, but you can go through and start sending your psychic powers at one unit from someone across someone else across the board. And I just haven't done it because normally I need to kill like whatever's in front of me. But yeah, it's great. So until finish, until the start of your next psychic phase, each time a friendly Jormungandr model makes a melee attack against that enemy unit, improve the AP characteristic of that attack by 1.
Nice.
That is nice.
Cool. Your relic is better than mine.
Is it infrasonic roar?
That rules.
This warrior organism has been grafted with complex arrangements of acoustic organs to unleash fearsome infrasonic bellows. So powerful are these booming sonic emanations that they cause primal terror and confusion in many sentient species. This reminds me of the cacophony from The Emperor's Children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I also am thinking, after we saw that Weird Al thing earlier, like putting in an accordion inside of like that just makes it kind of funny. All right, at the end of your movement phase, select one enemy unit within 12 inches of the bearer and roll 3d6. If the result is equal to or higher than the enemy unit's leadership characteristic, until the start of your next movement phase, that unit cannot perform actions. And if that unit is currently performing an action, it immediately fails.
Right?
Wow.
Right? How cool is that? That's so fun.
That's a great artifact. And if you can put it on someone who can move across the board real quick.
They rock and roll your freaking action to death.
Yep. Yeah. They're just like not caring.
So fun.
Yeah.
That is so fun.
So the stratagem is buried in weight. When I originally saw it, I thought I saw buried in what? And
it's a requisition stratagem. I don't think I've ever seen, I'm sure they exist, but I don't think I've ever seen a requisition stratagem as a bonus like sub-faction stratagem before. What does it do?
You're right. I don't think I've seen one of those either. Okay. The great serpent attacks from below, bursting out from subterranean tunnels into the midst of its prey. So use this stratagem before the battle during the declare reserves and transport step. Oh, so it's at the very beginning. If you're playing a mission without this step, use the stratagem during deployment instead.
Oh.
So select one unit from your army, excluding Titanic units. You can set that unit near to the surface instead of setting it on the battlefield. So I guess it's kind of a reserves thing.
But you get to do it whether or not the mission normally would allow you to do it, which is very interesting.
If you do so, then in the reinforcement step of your movement phases, you can set that unit up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. You can only use the stratagem once unless you are playing a strike force battle, in which you can use it twice, or an onslaught battle in which you can use this stratagem 3 times. Whoa.
So you deep strike for 1 CP.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the infrasonic roar, you've got a major disruption unit.
Wow.
And you don't have to come in from the sides or anything like that.
But you know what? That's fair. For Jormungandr, yes. Yeah. That's fair. It's what they do.
Yeah.
So I'm not in any way scandalized by the fact that they get a 1 CP deep strike stratagem, because that is their entire shtick. So that's fine. Okay. So
I am amused that buried in what is what I buried in what.
And you even wrote it here.
Yeah, I laughed because I saw it and I started cracking up. I'm like, all right, I have to put that in there. Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope everybody, including we, have a better understanding of how the hive fleets work and how the armies come together, so that we can now go dive in and start talking about the Crusade rules. So let's take a quick break. I'll get Quinn up, so everybody will get a night. The next segment is going to be super fun for people without kids, and we'll be right back.
Come here, boy. Get the ball. Come on, Max. Get the ball. Mom, Max won't get the ball. He's lazy.
I think I know why your Zote is being lazy, Jenny.
Why, Mom?
Because you forgot to feed him his Zotabix today.
Oh, no.
Oh yes, Zotobix contains all the nutrients and random animal parts a growing Zote craves. It not only provides our Zote with the energy it needs to play with you and protect our home, but it also keeps its chitinous shell fresh and shiny.
Oh boy, I'd better feed Max's Zotobix.
Yes, you had.
Zotobix is made in part from grade
Max,
A
time for
Astra
dinner.
Militarum post-engagement byproduct and is infused with 112 essential vitamins
No,
and
Max,
minerals
down.
harvested from your Zote's natural habitat, the finest desert deserts.
Ah!
Zotobix is available in any shopping center on worlds where Zotes are allowed or where the Imperium's inexorable influence has not yet reached.
Hey Archons, does 9th edition have you feeling like the Slith Party bus just doesn't have enough party for you? Well, if you want to put a little shock back into your shock brow, you need the Slith Party On! That's right, Archons. For 736 points, you can take 3 Archons, 12 Slith, and a Tantalus. It's the Slith Party On! Now I know what you're thinking. Couldn't I take Drazar, 15 Incubi and a Tantalus, aka the Incubi Murder Boat, for 51 less points? Sure you could, but it wouldn't be the Slith Party On! But is it legal? Oh yeah! Is it awesome? Oh yeah! Is it any good on the table? No! It's the all-new Slith Party On. Sort of awesome. Party On! Really hilarious. Party On! It's the Slith Party On!
Welcome back. So, judging by my volume and the fact that Jason's going to have to remix this whole section differently, Quinn's away now.
EQ takes care of it on its own.
Oh, good. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. So the special Crusade rules system for the Tyranids is called Devouring Worlds. So much
Good
like
name.
the Tau who conquer worlds, the Tyranids make yum yum noises of them. So during a
Sorry, that's
Tyranid
funny.
Crusade, your army is devouring a world. You devour one world at a time, obviously. You generate it randomly according to the rules, but if you're in a set narrative campaign with your friend, you can just kind of set your whatever numbers you want. So each kind of world has its own thing that's already set. So you can generate one of 3 world types: industrial, rural, and hive.
That's
so each
really
type
cool.
each one represents kind of this variety of actual imperial designations. So a feudal world counts as a rural world. I guess, a death world. I'm not sure how you. I guess it would be rural if it's just like Catechan.
Yeah.
Or it might be industrial if it's already got a bunch of industry on it, or if it's all like abandoned mechanicist style terrain.
Well, because we actually do have that scan, that page, and it actually says, like, for industrial world, it could be a forge world or a manufactorum world or refinery world. And a rural world could be an agri world, feudal world, frontier colony, imperial night world, etc. And maybe it's one of those like jungle, like Catechan, where was it Catechan that has all the crazy forests and whatnot? That would probably be a rural world. Blah.
Yeah, I would say same thing like a maiden world. That would be a rural world.
Oh yeah, that would. Yeah, yeah.
So
what would a crone world be, since they're supposed to be kind of used up?
it might be the same, just because of I think it's all about how much industry is on that world and how much is defending it.
Yeah, and probably the type
I think that's
of
really all that
biomass.
matters.
Okay.
Yeah, the amount of biomass is really what matters there, I think.
Yeah, it looks like Hive Worlds have a lot of Hive World. I'm looking at the chart. Hive Worlds have a lot of biomass. So yeah, okay.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
but they also have a lot of resistance because there's more people there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they do, don't they? Okay.
Yeah. So each invasion, each like Devouring Worlds invasion cycle has 3 stages: invasion, predation, and consumption. Each world has different crushed resistance number, which is a stat that you keep track of, and a different amount of biomass that you can collect. And you have to reach that number in order to move on to the next phase. You have to reach that number in each of those respective scales. You determine these numbers required for each stage at the time you generate the world. So you're not wondering how much you need to finish stage 3 until you reach stage 3. You actually know ahead of time how much total you're going to need.
So, like, for example, at the invasion stage on an industrial world, the number required to overcome resistance is 2d3. Yeah. And the amount of biomass is collected is 3. So when those numbers are reached, you can then move to the next stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
so what's just for funsies? What's the biomass collected for a rural world?
So rural world is 3d3. So
for the first,
for the invasion, yeah.
Wow. So there's a lot more biomass obviously for a rural world than there is for a industrial world.
Now, crushed resistance is 2.
Yeah. So that's why the Tyranids love invading those aggro worlds, man. There's nobody there to defend it, and there's so much biomass.
Yeah, you can get 3, anywhere from 3 up to a max of 9, which is, industrial worlds is D3, and Hive World is D3 plus 3. So
Hive Worlds have both.
Yeah.
High risk, high reward situation. Yeah.
So let's see, where are we in the notes? Because I got lost.
Oh, okay. So every time you win a battle, it generates 1 biomass and 1 crushed resistance. So each battle lost loses 1 biomass. The enemy doesn't undie when you lose a game. Like all the people you previously killed remain killed, but if you lose a game, you've wasted biomass on going after people. There are obviously agendas and stuff that modify these numbers. And if you're running a strictly narrative campaign on a specific world, you can adjust the numbers and you can actually award more of these points if you want based on the mission. And each stage has its own special rules that modify your army and how the game plays. You want to do stage 1 invasion?
Invasion, yeah. Because this is one of the things I found really fascinating about this codex and the Crusade rules. So you can use Vanguard detachment as a main detachment with no CP penalty, which I think that's pretty big. That's fast moving. That's your fast attack choices, flyers, etc., and elites. You can also use the Vanguard Onslaught stratagem, which gargoyles, gene stealers, harpies, hive crones, and lictors can reroll to wounds on the charge. These are all Vanguard organisms, so they're definitely in your face and quick.
Right. Now in the Lore Masters episode for this week, Wade Price was talking about Tyranid invasions and how they work, and he calls these Vanguard organisms. They are the creatures that show up first and set the stage for the bigger baddies and the bigger swarms.
It's interesting that what is in that group and who is not in that group. Like gene stealers makes sense. Gargoyles, they fly, they get in their harpies, hive crones, etc.
Lictors for sure. They kill. They cut the head off. They kill the characters before the battle even starts.
Yeah. And then we don't see gaunts showing up in the stage, which I think is interesting because they seem to be more of not a Vanguard detachment because they don't really move that quick. Units gain. Let's see. Units gain extra battle XP. So for Endless Multitude, Gene Stealers, Harpies, Hive Groans, Lictors. So they're all getting extra experience just for showing up in this stage, which, means you need to take them.
And even though they can't use that Vanguard Onslaught stratagem, Endless Multitude do show up here for the bonus XP. So that's just your troops, your basic troops guys.
Now, here's the rule that I really find cool. All right. Units do not gain battle XP in this stage. And these are Biovores, Exocrines, Haruspexes, Hive Guard, Hive Tyrant, Pyrovores, Ripper Swarms, Tyranifexes, Tyrant Guard, because they're not fast movers. They're not there yet. Yeah. So if you're
they may not even be needed.
Yeah, if you come in fast enough,
yeah.
I think that's super flavorful. I think I've said that for almost every 9th edition codex, where such as a battle, I wouldn't want to play that list or that thing just because it's a little bit too much bookkeeping for me. But it works perfectly. I love the way the Thousand Suns are because it's flavorful. And this I see as being. Yeah, this is very flavorful.
It's really good. And it also assumes you have a collection of
that too.
Tyranids.
Yeah.
Now, if you're the kind of person that just builds a list and paints a list and that's it,
this is not for you.
Yeah, I hate saying this isn't for you, but I don't think there's any way for me to describe it. This really isn't for you if that's what you do.
Yeah.
Because it's really assuming you have a collection of Tyranids and you're going to use that collection.
Yeah. Although most people who play NIDS, they've got, they all want Gaunts to be good. They've been wanting it for a long time. Sorry.
So stage 2 is predation. That's when they're going to start hunting things down a little bit at a time. So you can use the Outrider detachment with no CP penalty. That's the fast attack one. They can use the Infestation stratagem, which is for 1 CP, you can set up an Endless Multitude unit as an infiltrator. So these are kind of like the troops. Hormigons, Termagants, and Gargoyles all have this keyword. All the troops. Except for warriors. Troops get extra battle XP, which is nice.
That is nice.
Yep. And the same units from Invasion do not get battle XP.
I like that Gaunts this is where Gaunts show up because this is where they should be.
Yeah, this is their hunting. Yeah. And all of even though they're not getting bonus XP, all the Vanguard organisms are still hanging out. They're not getting a penalty to XP at this point.
Right. Then our next stage is consumption, which, is not a cough or anything like that. Yeah, it's all the noms. So you can use the Spearhead detachment with no CP cost. You can use the Guard and Consume stratagem for 1 CP, and all the units that were not used in stage 1 and 2 get to reroll 1s to hit if they are within range of an objective marker, or reroll all hits if they are within range of an implanted Tyranniform Spore objective marker. So all the units that were discouraged in stages 1 and 2, which were, Biovore, Exocrine, Haruspex, Hive Guard, Hive Tyrant, Pyrovore, Ripper Swarms, Tyranifexes, Tyrant Guard, now they get bonus battle XP. So, which is, this is, they're eating. Gene Stealers, Harpies, Hive Crones, and Lictors do not earn battle XP in stage consumption because they don't need to be there. They need to be predation.
Need to be devoured by the consuming organisms to make more consuming organisms.
Honestly, that's kind of what we're thinking. It's just like, did you survive the stage 2? Well, it's a Synapse Jabba's palace now.
Your fuel for the fire.
That's right.
Yeah. And again, the troops are never penalized here. Like they're always going to be there. They just don't get the same they don't get the big bonus they did in Predation. That's all.
Right.
So throughout these things, you can look up. You can spend your biomass on biogenesis. So every time you complete a stage 3, so every time you are finished devouring a planet, before you generate a new world, you can spend some of your biomass points on upgrades. So we each picked one, as we do. I picked The Swarm Grows, which is a simple one. You can increase your supply limit by 3.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, and it's not pick one. You can spend any biomass points you have acquired on these upgrades.
Nice.
So it's not like, if a planet somehow got you 8 biomass points, you can use this Swarm Grows to get yourself 2 times 3. Not 2 times 3. 3 times 4, 12 power, because you can do it 4 times.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I chose rare biomorphs just because, I don't know if it really helps in the game, but just the idea of having a biomorph that just looks a little bit different, a little more your special, in this case, biomass. So select one Hive Tendril character unit from your order of battle. You can use this relic requisition for 0 RP to give a model in that unit a relic as if it had just gained a rank.
That's cool.
That is pretty cool. And it allows you to kind of create your own, if you want to do your own version of Old One Eye. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. You can start doing that.
That one's 4 points. I think the most expensive one is 6. And that gets you a requisition point, which is either useful or not useful depending on what you're going for.
Yeah.
All right. So let's look at the agendas, shall we?
Yeah.
So obviously a bunch of these agendas are going to affect how you devour worlds. That's that should be expected. So the one I picked was Tyranniform Prey World. This one's complicated. In preparation for a complete assimilation of biomass on this prey world, it is necessary to seed Tyranid structures on the battlefield, from Shadowcaster Organisms to digestion pools. Okay, so you keep So you keep a Tyranniform Prey World tally. So you keep a tally for each unit, and you increase their tally each time it successfully completes the implant Tyranniform Spore action. So all infantry can do this. It's not an agenda for monsters to be doing. This is not their job.
Right.
You do it. You can perform it at the end of a movement phase, more than 12 inches from any implanted spore objective markers. So you can't be near another objective marker that's been implanted. It's completed at the end of your turn, so it's an easy one to do.
Right.
Once completed, you place an objective marker anywhere within 1 inch of the unit that completed this action. This objective marker represents an implanted Tyranniform spore, but does not count as an objective marker for any rules purposes other than for this agenda.
Okay.
So each unit from your army gains a number of experience points equal to double their Tyranniform Prey World tally. And your Crusade Force gains a number of biomass and crushed resistance points as shown in the table below. So not only is this really thematic, where they're kind of creating these digestion pools and stuff during the game, which can be you definitely should have custom objective markers made up. Without question. This is something you have to do. Like either like floating balls of flesh that kind of hover in the air over the objective marker, or little pools of grossness, or spinities sticking out of the ground, stuff like that. So not only is it super thematic in that way, but not only does it get you experience, but it also helps you generate biomass and crush resistance. So this agenda, I feel like, it's so thematic and so fun and also so useful that I don't see me not taking this ever. I would always take this. All the time. And I would get to use my sweet custom objective markers that I made to do it. Kind of like the Drukhari that I always take the trophy hanging one because it's hilarious. Like hanging trophies of people's heads and stuff is great.
Yeah, I still need to make custom objective markers for my Thousand Suns. I've got my Blood Raven ones that I absolutely love. I just haven't figured out what I'm going to do for the Thousand Suns yet. All right. I chose Tyranid Attack. All these are really cool. I just chose this one because
it was short.
It was short, to be perfectly honest. But also it's the overwhelming nature of, the NIDs. This should be what they take all the time, just period. But, it doesn't always happen that way. So at the end of the battle, if no enemy models are remaining on the battlefield, so if you've tabled your opponent, and you can still lose, but, as long as there are any models on the field, each Hive Tendril unit from your army that is on the battlefield gains 3 experience points, and your Crusade force gains 4 biomass points and 4 crushed resistance points. And that's pretty cool. They're eating
all the flesh. They're eating all the biomass.
Yeah.
All right. I like it. I mean, there's something in our zeitgeist about tablings being bad.
Yeah.
For some reason, this game is so deadly. I don't know how we can still have that mentality, but try to be a little more open to stuff like this, because I feel it happens more often than not.
Well, if you have a sorcerer that
has no models left,
if you have a sorcerer that can teleport all over the board, take this one.
So that's a fun one. I like it. Okay.
Yep.
So let's look at the requisitions. I picked an intellect vast and cold. So this one, the Gestalt consciousness of the Great Devourer is an omnipresent throughout the Hive Fleets, always urging its mindless, ravenous swarms on towards whatever strategic goals will see them best feed, grow, and spread. So this is the Hive Mind requisition. You purchase it during the select agendas step of the battle. So this is something that isn't before the in between games. This is a during the game requisition expenditure. You can select one additional agenda during this battle, and up to 2 of your agendas can be Tyranid agendas. Normally, you can only have one Tyranid agenda. At least one of the agendas you select must be from the Tyranids agendas. So you can have. I think that this is neat and a good way of racking up the XP.
Yeah, I do too. That would be pretty good.
It's basically free experience points. It's great.
This one was kind of difficult because there's some really good ones on here that I was just kind of like, this is cool. But I decided that I thought synaptic bioregenesis. So splash text. As needs of the swarm change, so the hive mind is able to break down the physical form of its synaptic node beasts while preserving their neuroganglia and the cached sense impressions therein. This neural mass is then encased in a new and more suitable physical form. So basically just regenerating, and modifying one of your units. So this requisition, Wait, we're doing requisitions, right? Yeah, good. Sorry.
It's 2 RP for this one, but it's worth
2 RP. Okay. Sorry about that. Didn't hit that.
Yeah. No.
Select one Synapse unit from your order of battle and replace it with a new Synapse unit from the same Highfleet. You cannot purchase this requisition if doing so would cause your total power level to exceed your supply limit. The newly added Synapse unit starts with the same number of experience points as the unit replaced and immediately gains the appropriate numbers of battle honors for its rank. I think that is cool. I think that's really, really flavorful, you know?
Yeah. I'm impressed by that. And, you know, if it were me, I would probably keep the same upgrades.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation, but there's no reason to, I would keep them if they were mental upgrades.
Yeah.
The physical upgrades, obviously just swap them out because it's a new body.
Yeah, change that.
I think that makes sense. But there's no actual, definition of what's a mental and what's a physical upgrade. So they don't bother with it, but I would. That's cool. That is a really neat one. I love it.
I like to respawn warrior organisms also.
Oh, yeah? What's that do?
That one's 1 RP. And you can select one Hive Tendril unit from your order of battle that has no battle scars. That unit loses any or all of its battle traits it currently has, but for each battle trait it lost, you can now select a new battle trait for it.
Huh.
So it's a way to just kind of redo your battle traits. But I mean, that's still a way to like respawn them with, new whatever that would work better for who you're attacking. I think that works really well.
That is an interesting way to look at that. I didn't consider it like as a adaptive thing, but of course it is. Of course, it's an adaptive thing.
Yeah.
Let's look at the. Oh, what's up?
Sorry, this is really. I mean, I've already said this a few times, but this codex is very flavorful. Like it really screams Tyranids to me.
Yeah. There's some hemming and hawing about the power level of it for matched play, but this kind of content is evergreen. The fact that all the Crusade content, regardless of what they do as far as adjusting the power of the army in balance updates, this stuff is really what matters to us. So first of all, before we talk about battle traits, just note that all your spore units are they're things. Spores don't have any level of sentience whatsoever, so they don't get upgrades like the rest
living
of
artillery.
Yeah, they are living artillery. So anyways, we're
paying attention.
Yes, we're picking a non-synapse battle trait. There's two columns. Yeah. Hive Tendril units and synapse units. The one I picked is Instinctive Autonomy, which is super cool. The brood possesses heightened tactical instincts that allow them to hunt efficiently even without direct synaptic oversight. So while it's within 18 inches of a friendly synapse model, it counts as being within 6 inches of that model for its synapse ability. So it's fearless. And also other stuff. I think if you recall some of the other, well, I'm not sure how the synapse ability interacts with the morphologies, but I'm sure there's other ways that instinctive autonomy will help the brood.
Yeah. I chose Fleet of Claw. Each time an advanced roll is made for this unit, treat a roll of 1 to 2 as a 3 instead. That's big. That's real
great.
Big.
That'd be really great for a Levi or I guess it doesn't matter. It's great for any of them.
And then each time a charge roll is made, treat each dice result of a 1 and 2 as a 3 instead.
Whoa.
So you're automatically advancing at least 3 and you're automatically charging 3. That's...
you're automatically charging at least 6?
Oh, 6 because it's 2 die. Yeah.
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 Wow.
If you're running a gaunt list, this is... You're taking this.
I love it. I love it. So for synapse units, there's a bunch of cool ones. I picked Psychic Shadow, such as this creature's psychic power that enemy sorceries unravel in its presence. So, first of all, this Synapse creature can't be targeted by psychic powers, period.
Yeah.
It's a psychic blank. It can't be seen. In your opponent's psychic phase, each time a model in this unit would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll a d6, and on a 3+, that wound is not lost.
That is unreal. That is crazy.
So even if you do somehow do mortal wounds to it in the psychic phase without targeting it, it still gets a 3+ to resist.
I think there's a couple of power, at least one power that will do that. Like that's a kind of a warp fire power, if I remember correctly.
Well, one of this is good against other Tyranids because Tyranids have some abilities that happen in the psychic phase, but only happen to the closest enemy unit, and it's not exactly a psychic power. So it happens as the result of a psychic power. So actually, this is a good one if you're competing with another Tyranid over a specific world.
Nice. Let me think. What did I pick up? I picked up Alien Resilience. So at the start of your command phase, one model in this unit regains one lost wound. I was just thinking about Fred, Fredolith,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
There are 2 columns of battle scars as well. Hive Tendril and Synapse. Well, just regular everybody, Synapse creatures and everybody else, basically. I picked a Synapse Unit 1 because I thought it was really cool. And going with my theme I'm going for here, Neural Dissonance Battle Scar. Due to neurosynaptic feedback or cranial damage, this bioform struggles to mesh fully with the hive mind. So
that is really cool.
When using the ability of another friendly model to select a unit within synaptic link range, this unit is not treated as having the synapse keyword. So it is a broken chain in the link.
Yeah.
It is synapse, but its synapse doesn't jive with everybody else's synapse, which I think is a really neat way to do it.
Yeah. It's funny. We have the entire page to choose, and I chose something else from the Synapse because I found it to be really kind of terrifying, I guess, if I was running this. Lobe impairment. So although this organism can still provide the warrior organisms around it basic synaptic imperatives, it's no longer able to control their behavior. So when this unit has a battle scar, it loses the synapse ability.
Oh, so it doesn't provide fearless.
Right.
Okay.
What's cool is that I noticed was, we've got 2 columns here, and all the scars are really kind of cool. We just chose Synapse because of whatever. But each one, if you're rolling, 5 and 6 on both columns can generate a battle scar from the core rule book.
Yeah, so, I was glad to see that.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I wanted one of us to bring that up because that's something that was missing from some of the others, and I think it was a mistake. They really should have a number that says, "Oh, also if you roll this, roll on the other table," because some of the other stuff makes you're just adding to the variety that you can get.
Yeah.
All right. So next we have Psychic Fortitudes. I picked an awesome one. It's the Warp Crest. This membranous crest sends excess empiric energies lashing out to rake at nearby prey organisms.
Oh.
So it's like a frilled headdress thing.
Yeah.
Each time this unit successfully manifests a psychic power, select one enemy unit within 6 inches of this unit and roll a d6. On a 2+, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So you do more. Whenever you use a psychic power, you do mortal wounds, which some of the units in this book already do this. So this is just more of that.
Did Psychic Fortitudes happen in the command phase, or The psychic
They
phase.
happen. No, the fortitudes are just like they're abilities that just happen.
Okay.
Or so each one should be specific to whatever they were looking to do.
Okay. I'm just wondering if it's like the Infernal Master stuff and the...
Oh, no. It's just stuff that happens.
Okay. I chose Shadowcaster Organism. This bioform has been transformed into an organic focusing lens for the malevolent shadow and the warp. Each time an enemy unit attempts to deny a psychic power manifested by this unit, if that deny the witch roll includes a double, that enemy unit suffers perils of the warp. Which I love this idea. It's just not going to happen a lot. I mean, it just isn't. It
may or may not happen a lot, but when it does, you're gonna be like,
it's gonna be
hilarious. By the way, you rolled a
Yeah.
double on your Deny the Witch. You're gonna take Perils of the Warp. Just let you know.
And
I think that's fun.
So in the notes I wrote, I like the idea, but I could see myself forgetting about the ability. Like I can completely.
That's fair.
But it's cool. Fair. I really like that. I think that's a cool trait.
For Crusade Relics, there's a bunch of fun ones in here. Honestly, I went with the Legendary Relic because sure, why not?
Yeah.
So again, each level of Relic increases your Crusade points more. So if you have this, you have +3 Crusade points. So this is the Norn Crown. First named by Inquisitor Cryptman, the Norn Crown is a unique parasitic organism that burrows needle-like cerebral bores directly into the brain of its host, forming a neurosynaptic link that acts as a hyperconduit for the hive mind. Though this abhorrent union, the hive mind's indomitable will can pour forth to augment and control the hordes of lesser Tyranids that scuttle in the leader beast's wake. So you become the Norn Queen. And once per battle, at the start of the battle round, when selecting a synaptic imperative to be active for your army, if the bearer is on the battlefield, you can select the bearer's synaptic imperative ability, even if it has already been active for your army. So this lets you redo your synaptic imperative ability.
Nice. Okay.
Which is pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah.
While the bearer is on the battlefield, all friendly Highfleet Synapse units count as being within 12 inches of one another for the purposes of selecting their unit within synaptic link range of one of them. So the whole battlefield is Synapse.
Yeah, it is.
When this is on the bat. So this kind of breaks the rules so much that like your army it's one of your army rules just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
But when you're this high level, that's kind of okay. You're probably only going to play a few more games anyways before retiring the roster.
Right.
So you might as well just go full crazy and just go to town with a Norn Crown.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the end of the campaign where it's just like, we're here to burn the place down. All right.
We're eating Armageddon.
Yeah. Okay, so the one I chose, first of all, why isn't this one in the Thousand Suns relics? I'm a little offended, maybe. Yeah. All right. Spirit Leech Cortex. This rare cranial adaptation allows its monstrous host to psychically drain the life from its prey, feeding off their psionic essence and using it as fuel to both regrow and augment its form. Psyker model only. So in your psychic phase, each time an enemy unit loses a wound as a result of a mortal wound inflicted by a psychic power manifested by the bearer regains 1 lost wound to a maximum of 3 regained per phase. And until the start of your next psychic phase, add 1 to the bearer's strength characteristic to a maximum of +3.
So every time they use a psychic power, they get better physically?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I read that and went, what? This should be in the Thousand Suns Codex. It should,
That is awesome. It's draining your energy.
Yeah.
I love it. That is fantastic. So this codex rules.
Yeah.
This codex rules so hard. Everything from the sub-faction abilities and being able to swap them out at the start of the game. What do you call it? What do they call? Dang nabbit. I had it all queued up in my brains, and then my brain said, guess what, Adam? You don't get to remember things. Remember things is for other people. The synaptic imperatives, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Synaptic imperative abilities. Those things where each HQ, like each character monster, each Synapse monster has a unique ability that spreads across the army.
Yeah.
Which reminds me a little bit of some of the stuff we're seeing coming up for Knights in our next episode.
Right.
Like each of these special units has its own way of affecting the units around it. And then moving on to the Crusade stuff, like, devouring a world. Everything I've seen in here has been perfectly thematic for the Tyranids, and I'm very excited for this book.
Yeah, I am too. I might even buy this book. I mean, I do have some Tyranids. But I don't have a lot. So,
and I think I could, if I wanted to, I could definitely use this book to make the Hermit Crab Highfleet that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I think I would probably just use Behemoth for that because it's all about the big monsters. But yeah, I think it's really sweet. Tyranid players, congratulations on getting a super sweet codex and a really fun Crusade section.
And maybe having the best relic in the game. I'm really offended. Like, I'm super offended that that's not the Thousand Suns Codex.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and close out the show.
Hello, everyone. The Masters of the Forge is now a proud member of the NPC, the Narrative Podcast Consortium. Our aim is to inspire your hobby through the rich lore of the 41st millennium. If you enjoy our podcast, then make sure to check out these other awesome shows, where you can get coverage on campaigns, Black Library, and all kinds of general topics of the 40K background.
The NGC 40K podcast also provides in-depth campaign coverage, audio dramas, and free-flowing narrative campaign creation.
The Adeptus Terra podcast also features in-depth discussions of the lore and commentary on the hobby.
Oh, and sexy English voices.
Oh, yeah.
The Masters of the Forge brings the world of 40K to life on your tabletop, with discussion on the lore, backed up by narrative-themed rules and battle reports.
Of course, this is only a fraction of the topics covered by the podcasts of the NPC. Please tune in to find out more.
Oh, we've reached level 6. Welcome back. So next time, we're actually not going to do a battle report next. We're going to actually do a point-counterpoint review of the Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights. We're going to have Bob on to talk about those. He's going to take the point of Chaos Knights. I'm going to take Imperial Knights. Jason's going to heckle.
It's going to be great. I'll have a great time.
Yeah. Bob and I are both going to try to get some games in. John is supposedly coming over sometime this week to play with me, and I think Bob already played against Tom. And we're gonna. I think it's gonna be a fun episode. Bob's great. And then hopefully after that, Jason and I are gonna play a somewhat bigger game on Tabletop Simulator. Before somewhere in between when my sister shows up to visit and Aaron shows up to visit, so it's going to actually have to be a specific weekend. Yeah. I'll talk more about that later, Jason. We're going to have a big battle, and then we'll decide whether we want to adjust which army I'm using in the campaign that we're running.
Yeah.
But until then,
play the game the way you want to.
Quinn Ronald, you did a good job. We'd love it if you could give us a positive rating and review on iTunes.
If you'd like to keep in contact with us, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter by searching for Masters of the Forge.
And you can follow our hobby progress on Instagram with the hashtag Masters of the Forge.
If you'd like to engage with us directly, you can always join our Discord server.
To do so, or if you have any questions, topic suggestions, or if you'd like to advertise your creative hobby endeavor,
contact us at mastersoftheforge@gmail.com.
Please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/mastersoftheforge. Thanks.
The music used in this podcast was made by Parad of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission. This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com.
It's such a good feeling to play games your way. It's such a happy feeling 40K'ing away. And when you throw dice with story in mind, it's such a wonderful way to unwind. It's a good feeling, a very good feeling, the feeling you know that we'll be back when the fortnight's new, and we'll have new ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. We will too.